The huge Warzone update came out just a couple of weeks ago, giving us a brand new map, new modes, and new weapons. But for most of the console Warzone community, sadly the update was kind of a huge disappointment. There was no FOV slider added or field of view slider to give it its full name, despite so many players asking for it and the many signs suggesting it was likely to come. As we know, consoles are stuck at 80 FOV, whilst PC players can slide all the way up to 120, giving a huge advantage to PC players since they can just see more around them, in addition to their potential to run on higher quality and higher frames per second. Previously, the developers have commented that they have looked at incorporating an FOV slider for consoles, but they believe that having an FOV slider in Warzone would cause performance problems with dropped frame rates. Currently, next-gen consoles that were running Warzone on 120Hz or frames can only currently run at 60 frames per second. And there are still consistent stability problems, whether that's problems connecting to the game, getting kicked out of games, freezing or poor graphics, low frames, or bad connection. Generally, as I'm sure you're aware, the game is kind of falling apart, particularly on consoles and particularly on old generation consoles. So maybe the developers were right then. The game isn't stable on 80 FOV and 60 frames per second at the minute, so it sure wouldn't be on 120 FOV and FPS. But then why is it so stable on Apex Legends? And comparatively more stable on Vanguard, where you can change your FOV to be much higher on console? Well, one thing we do know is that Call of Duty are aware of the current stability issues with Warzone, and whilst it's taking way too long to fix it, they are in the process of fixing it. But regarding a potential FOV slider or increase, they haven't mentioned anything since the update, and seem actively quiet on the subject. They changed the wording of some visual settings when the update came out to avoid people thinking they were referring to FOV. And all over Twitter, where Raven Software are usually so good at communicating with fans, they've not said anything despite the many tweets that they get per day. The bottom line is they need to communicate better on this subject like they have on so many other things. I honestly think despite all of this bad news, there is reason to be optimistic for the future. It's just hard to know how far into the future. Thanks to the many comments we all leave throughout the community, Call of Duty are absolutely aware that it's at the top of our wish list. And I think it's on their mind at the moment to not overrun the processing power of older generation consoles, which most console players are still on. If they crank up the FOV potential for next-gen consoles, which are likely to be able to handle it with no issues, it potentially isolates and creates unfair competition for a huge part of their player base on the older generation on PS4 and Xbox One. Admittedly, I would argue that they're semi-isolating and creating unfair competition for all console players currently compared to PC. And that's the worst thing, unfair competition. I mean, Xbox players can't even currently turn off crossplay. It's likely that if more people had the next generation consoles of Xbox Series X and S and PS5, we might have an FOV slider right now. But obviously with supply issues and people struggling to even buy them, along with people not having the money to get them, the next gen consoles are nowhere near at the level of uptake you might expect. So perhaps when the uptake is high enough in the Warzone player base, we'll finally get the holy grail of an FOV slider. In the meantime though, a good idea would be to have a console-only option. But the creators will probably worry about the number of players available at any one time to populate lobbies, and satisfy full lobbies with a fair standard of quality. And by that I mean have skill-based matchmaking actually working, and to do that you just need a lot of players. I'm sure you don't need any more encouragement, but I recommend continuing to voice your opinion and keep this issue high on the agenda at Raven Software. Be sure to give the video a like and subscribe if you've got a sec. See ya!